Hello, and welcome to my new series on racing simulators. So, more specifically, this series is going to look at how to set up a race car to maximise its performance on a track. I'll also be showing you how you can get the car to handle in a way that will complement your driving style. So, first of all, let's look at racing simulators. Now, I'm sure that you've seen many racing games out there, but what are the differences between those and a simulator style game? Well, racing games are primarily designed for fun and entertainment, so a lot of the focus will go into making the graphics look good, creating storylines around the racing, and other ways to make the game entertaining. Racing simulators, as you can probably guess, will focus on realism, accurately recreating the way a car handles. As a result, they can be a bit more difficult to play. Generally, with racing games, you can just jump in and have a grand old time, whereas with sims, you need to put in a bit more effort to get a good result. So, if you're on a PC, you're a bit spoilt for choice when it comes to racing sims. So some of the more popular racing simulators out there are iRacing, rFactor, Assetto Corsa, Race Room Experience, Live for Speed, and Project Cars. So a quick word on each one. iRacing is touted as being one of the best with accurate cars and tracks and an active multiplayer community. One of the downsides, however, is that you have to pay a subscription to play the game, which can prove costly over time. rFactor 2 has a lot of support as having the most realistic physics out of this selection, and it also has a large modding community supporting the game and making content. That is a double-edged sword though, as bad mods, vehicles or tracks are out there, and the game itself is also expensive to buy. Assetto Corsa is regarded as being a very solid all-rounder. It's priced well, however it doesn't excel in any particular area, and I've read reviews that say that the multiplayer experience isn't the best. That, however, may have changed with updates to the game. Race Room Experience is another good all-rounder and an attractive option because it is a free-to-play game. However, if you want to get decent vehicles and tracks to race on, you'll need to pay for these add-ons. Live for Speed is another game that you can get for free, but have to pay to unlock all of the content. It does have solid gameplay, however the game has a very long development time. According to Wikipedia, the first iteration of the game was originally released in 2003 and it is still in development today. And lastly, Project Cars, which is certainly the sexiest looking out of the bunch with fantastic graphics. However, users have reported that it lacks in other areas such as physics realism and AI performance. So for this series, I personally will be using rFactor 2 to demonstrate various subjects. However, every tutorial I do will be applicable to any of these simulators and any other simulators which I haven't mentioned. But anyway, let's move on to controllers. So if you're going to play a racing simulator, there's only really one way to play them. And that is by using one of these. This is a PC steering wheel controller, and it just makes playing racing games so much easier and so much more kind of realistic. So this is actually a middle of the range kind of mod version. We've got a steering wheel, I've got a gear lever here, and I've got a pedal set here. So most PC steering wheel sets will have a steering wheel and a pedal set. So the steering wheel will have like several features generally. You'll have obviously the steering wheel, most often you'll have these flappy paddle gear levers on the back for changing gears and several buttons on the front. Usually they'll also come with a pedal set. Now, as I said, because this is a middle of the range, I've got three pedals here. I've got an accelerator, brake, and one for the clutch as well. Normally, at the very least, you'll have an accelerator and a brake there. What most PC steering wheels have these days now as well is something called force feedback. So that's when you turn the wheel, because it's not plugged in, you can see that the wheel moves freely just now. But when you're playing a game, if you've got force feedback enabled, what it does is there's actually motors inside the housing at the back here, which put resistance onto the wheel. So as you turn it, it gets like tougher and tougher and tougher, and like it actually puts a bit of kind of weight into the wheel, so it makes it harder to turn. And also with force feedback, if you are playing a racing game and you maybe go off track or something, the motors inside will actually kind of twitch the wheel, so the wheel will start juggling like that. And it just makes it feel a lot more realistic, like if you're driving off road and the wheel starts kind of bumping as it would in real life, it just makes the whole experience a bit more real. So most steering wheels will offer that offer that kind of realism and that kind of feature. So steering wheel sets in the UK will start at about £50. But they can go anywhere up into the hundreds. As I said, this is a kind of middle of the range where it's got this kind of gear lever as well and a few extra buttons. But you can get sort of much more kind of advanced kind of builds. So you'll get steering wheels which are replicas of sports cars. They'll have like an all metal kind of construction. You can get gear kind of add-on bits as well, which are all metal and just a lot heavier and a lot kind of more sturdy. And the same with pedal sets. You can get pedals with like adjustable pedals and all the rest of it. So yeah. At the end of the day, if you want to play like a racing game and play it realistically, ideally you need to be having one of these steering wheel sets. So now about the series and how things are going to progress. To be honest, I couldn't really figure out a good systematic way of approaching the subjects. Setting up a race car is a very individual thing. Many experienced simmers will have different approaches to setting up their car. That, plus everything you can adjust on the car, will have an effect on some other part of the car. For example, if you change the tyre pressures, you may have to readjust the brakes and the suspension. If you change the aerodynamics, you could end up changing the gear ratios. And as I said, different people will have different ways of doing that, and I'm sure if any experienced race simmers will see these videos, they'll leave many suggestions on how to do things. But anyway, for this series, I'm going to simply work from the ground up as best as I can, and of course, if you guys have any requests for specific subjects, then let me know and I'll be sure to cover it. So with that in mind, the first video, which will be out next weekend, will be focused on the tyres, the only part of the car which touches the road, which makes it kind of important. So I hope to see you there. Many thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.